You to track some of the biggest top stories that we are following for you. And really a big one is a fugitive Colombian killer who was cut loose in the U.S. after crossing the border illegally, despite being convicted of murder and a slew of other violent charges back home. Immigration authorities have admitted. So this is a big story that we are following alongside Fox News's William Lajeunesse, who is continuing to cover this story. We want to bring him in with the latest. And William, yeah, this is a story that is going to get a lot of eyeballs on it.
Well, I'll tell you this. So ICE made a mistake, and today they fell on their sword and they admitted to it. So you got to give them some credit here. But what it does show is something we've been talking about for years. Despite these assurances about vetting people and background checks by the Biden administration at the border, you know, when you're apprehending and processing 5,000 people a day, there are going to be mistakes. Case in point, 49-year-old Efren Vargas. He was wanted in Colombia for murder and theft, and he was sentenced to 17 years in prison in Colombia. However, even with that criminal record, he made his way to southern Arizona, San Luis, and entered illegally in November. Now, the Border Patrol apprehended him. They saw the warrant and transferred him to ICE for deportation. Now, after a few days, ICE mistakenly released him with a notice to appear in court. Last week, agents, however, they found the mistake, and they found him living in Western Massachusetts. Sources say the process, you know, isn't foolproof unless a home country provides the U.S. with a real-time electronic access to their criminal database, or a partner country provides travel data, say Mexico, if he was entered into their system. Sometimes people are showing up at the border and we have no idea who they really are. And there's no biometrics to say, confirm they are who they claim they are. In this case, however, Border Patrol caught it. ICE did catch the error and thankfully picked him up before anything untoward happened to the people of Western Massachusetts. The problem is some agencies just don't have the data that they want and they slip through the cracks. Mike?
Yeah, it's so important to talk about that and really talk about also the political, the red tape that there's so many government agencies that have, and really maybe sharing information. How fast can information be shared between entities so you know when these people are coming in? Hey, let's flag them right now.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the big problems right now is the number of NGOs that are involved. These are technically nonprofit religious charities by and large, and they're not tied into the databases that we're talking to. So sometimes people are released and then these NGOs take them and they fly them to different cities, and that city doesn't know what they really have in their hands. Again, because you come over the border, you drop your passport or whatever ID you have, you go to the Border Patrol and they go, what's your name? And you give them a name, but your fingerprint isn't on file because you haven't been admitted to the United States previously, right? So we don't have any fingerprint or biometric data on you. So you had a DOB, a date of birth, in some foreign country, and we have no way of checking that out with, say, obviously Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, in many cases, some of these Latin American countries, we don't have the data. Now, Colombia, we are a friendly country with them, and they're one of the more advanced ones. But this guy came from a mountain town in the Andes. They're working on paper, not electronics, so there's a good chance that we don't know what his criminal history is. And the agencies are trying to handle this kind of thing. Luckily, they caught the error. Granted, they didn't. They let him out. They shouldn't have. They didn't want to. They did. And luckily, they found him before, again, any damage was done. But it just goes to show how many people are living in this country who shouldn't be here and who have a criminal past.
Yeah, that's so true. And lastly, William, obviously this is a political year. We have an election in November. How fast does something like a story like this, when it's in the headlines, and we continue to talk about it as well, but it's in the headlines, how fast does like the RNC get a hold of this and make sure that come closer to November, stuff like this is discussed and also in political ads?
Well, you know, if it had a different ending, like the girl in Georgia, then definitely it's going to be a part of an ad. I mean, the Biden administration has immigration on steroids right now. 2.5 million admissions, apprehensions last year, not to mention all the gotaways. So clearly that's going to be a political point that the Trump administration is going to make. Whether something quite like this makes it into the news or into an ad, not sure. I think there's other cases that have where it did result in the death or the injuring of an American citizen for someone who wasn't supposed to be released, who slipped through the cracks and caused harm. But this particular case, they caught it. But it just goes to show it's symbolic, emblematic, really, of the problem that we have on our hands with so many people overwhelming the border, processing 5,000 people a day. It's not going to be perfect.
No, that's so true. William LaJeunesse, thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We always appreciate your updates. Thanks so much again.
You bet.